when you choose to overcome the inertia or the negative feelings associated with doing hard things, you develop that part of the brain like a muscle. Whereas conversely, if you choose to not do that, that part of the brain atrophies and you literally get weaker.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
What's up, Remarkables? Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast, chiropractic's #1 business podcast. I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
And I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
Hey guys, as always, we're super stoked to be here with you guys. It's Friday morning, which means we're in the studio. I know you're probably listening to this on a Tuesday. So awesome that these come out every single Tuesday. Dr. Pete, every time we're together, like in a big room, like when we were at our immersion in Tampa, hearing so many people just loving on us on the podcast. Like at one point I was teaching like a CEO breakout. There was 125 or 130 CEOs in the room. And I'm like, I made mention to like, hey, the CEO podcast is a great reference for you guys. You can go to the search function. And if you hear me mention anything, just throw that in the search function. And you're going to hear Dr. Pete and I just really unpacking the concepts in detail. And I'm like, by the way, how many of you guys are listening to the CEO podcast or watching it on YouTube? Bro, it was like the entire room. It was 100, if not 110 of the 125 hands shot right up. Man, that just warmed my heart because, you know, you and I, we've been doing this a long time and just, it can feel sometimes like you're speaking out into the abyss. I always say, thank God I've got you to talk to, man. Because we'd be having this conversation regardless. We'd have this conversation regardless, which is what I think makes it so powerful and so relevant. So today's going to be no exception. We're going to be talking about one of the attributes of a CEO that is the greatest predictor of success. We're going to talk about what it takes to create willpower and resilience, and specifically grit. And I'm excited to talk about how to develop your brain, your mind, just like you would develop a muscle, right? So all of us love Andrew Huberman. I mean, Huberman's awesome. Always making reference to the part of the brain that is like a muscle that develops when you choose to do hard things, right? So when you overcome the desire to not do something and you choose to do hard things, regardless of how you feel in the moment or whether you want to do it, when you make the choice to overcome that inertia and actually do the hard things, you develop a part of the brain. It's called the aMCC, or the Anterior Mid-Cingulate Cortex. It's got lots of research around it now. It's a super hot item and super hot topic in research. I'm super stoked about it because we've always known what's true is that what you need as a CEO to be a truly remarkable CEO is the grit to make sure that you have the passion and the perseverance to reach your long-term goals. This is going to be a great conversation.
You know, I didn't know you were, when we come to these episodes, just so you guys know, when we record, both Dr. Stephen and I, we will, in the week leading up to our time when we record, we'll be thinking about topics we want to hit on, things that come up typically in our coaching and just our businesses and life. And so, you know, today when, you know, we're recording in the morning, I didn't know like what inspiration would come. I have inspiration. Dr. Stephen has inspiration. So we share it. And then that's how we a lot of times choose our episodes. So we want to bring you guys content that's fresh, relevant, that's real, that's raw, that's just, you know, and that's something we've done. It's a best practice for 6 years. So it's not like this is something new. This is like, 6 years, like 300 episodes of this. So this is not like we haven't tested this. It works really well the way we do what we do. It's a creative process, right? So anyway, when he shared with me his inspiration on this topic, I thought, oh my God. So, you know, right now it's really cold in Nashville where I live. And, you know, there's this cold front across the country, I guess. And it's winter. So, you know, to be expected, I guess. But, you know, I had one of those moments this morning. So one of the things I love doing in part of my morning rhythm, my morning ritual routine is I do cold plunge. I do cold therapy. And for me, I do know the physical benefits, the physiological benefits of it. I do. But for me, what I've realized over the years of doing it is that it's really about the mental game. Like I do it more for mental and spiritual reasons than I do physical at this stage. I mean, I know there's physical benefits of it. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of physical benefits from other forms of exercise too. But I do it for those reasons, but man, I do it even more for the mental and physical. So today I had one of those challenging days, Dr. Stephen, because it was 10 degrees this morning.
Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit, yes, Fahrenheit. So it was 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and I realized like I'm going into so I have two different plunges. I have a pool, but I also have an actual like ice barrel cold plunge. And so in the winter when it's really cold, I can actually use the pool because the water gets really, really cold, like to the point where like could be a little piece of ice over the top of it. It's like that cold. So I knew today was a pool day, which means I'm swimming, and which means I'm going to be treading water, and it's going to be really, really cold. And to get to the pool, it's a walk, and then you get back, and I submerge all the way under, I swim all the way across underneath. I do have this whole routine, which is intimidating to me.
It's
and
awful.
I had one of those days where I realized, even last night I was starting to psych myself out because I knew today was a day I needed to do it, and I knew it was going to be a freaking painful day. But I knew I needed to because I had a conversation with my boys last night, and they were like, we were having a little bit of they were being challenging, and I was like, you know what you guys need to do to overcome this? I was like, you need to go outside right now and you need to get in that water. It was even colder last night. And they're like, that we wouldn't do it. Like, you wouldn't make us do it. I was like, I will make you do it. And we had this whole conversation.
Contraire.
I was like, I'll do it. I'll do it with you. And they're like, fine, you go do it. And I was like, I would do it. We had this whole conversation. I was like, I would do it, but I don't need to do it. I said, but you guys need to do it. And they didn't do it. I didn't make them do it. I let them off the hook. But last night I realized when I had that conversation, I was like, yeah, it's scary. It's painful. Like, you think about putting yourself in an environment where like even just being outside with no clothes on. I mean, I wear a pair of shorts. It's like that alone is like not fun. And then like the whole time you're out there, you're 3 minutes in the thing, doing the treading of the water, and you get out, so I did it today. Right. And it was so painful, and it still hurt like an hour later. Like literally my fingers still were hurting and painful, my toes. And some people were like, dude, that's just unhealthy, man. Why are you doing that? Well, here's the thing. I've done it, and I've felt that many times before. My body always thaws out. I always am just fine. But I'll tell you something right now. I did it because what my mind had to overcome today, and then what it did for me spiritually, feeling that level of depth of pain. I felt so much pain. It was so deep. It was so deep inside of me. But all I could say the whole time was like, thank you, Lord. Because I thought, man, you know what? There's so many people that live in pain. There's so many people that have suffered, and suffering and pain, they say it's weakness leaving the body or whatever. But man, I'm just so thankful because I realize how sensitive and fragile we are as humans, and yet how much we could actually accomplish if we really can overcome some of these things that just stop us from taking action, stop us from moving forward. So there's so much gold that comes out of, facing these challenges that we face in our lives. And that's just one simple baby little example, right? Of like Dr. P kind of doing this thing. But I'll tell you something right now. It does change you. It does change you. It helps. For me, I believe, Dr. Stephen, by me putting myself in those painful situations, it actually helps me become a more kind person. You want to know why? Because sometimes it's hard for me to be kind. Sometimes I'm a jerk. So what if me being in those painful situations actually helps me kind of chop off some of those sharp edges of who I am? It's like, dude, you don't need to be that kind of a person anymore. You get to be a better person. Like you could become a better leader, a better human, a better father, a better husband. You could be a better friend. It's like, and maybe the way that I'm going to arrive there is I got to put myself in these environments where I'm going to have to go through this really, really hard thing that I don't want to do at all. Like, and I don't have to do it. No one's making me do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that was, so I had that experience this morning, and I show up and Doc and I are talking about what's on our minds and hearts. And then he brings this up. So I thought it was a story that was worth telling, Dr. Stephen, because we're going to unpack it in how it applies many other ways. But that was my morning so far.
Yeah, it's a leadership conversation, right? And leaders choose to do hard things. The most important word in that sentence is choose, right? So leaders choose to do hard things. If you choose to be a leader, you're going to do hard things, period. You don't get out of this without doing hard things. if you're going to choose to be a leader, you're going to do hard things. Remarkable leaders choose to do hard things. That word, just moving that word around in that sentence changes everything, right? So your boys watching you do that. So knowing that you immediately are like, I don't want to do it. Like we don't tell stories like, it's not that bad. Come on, you just get in and you get out. It'll be over in a second. It's not that bad. That is not the way to do that. Mm-hmm. It's to say, this is horrible. I mean, it's terrible. It's colder than you think it's going to be, and it's going to be more uncomfortable than you think it's going to be. And I'm going to choose to do it. And that's why I'm doing it. It's the choosing to overcome that. Like that's the lesson for the boys. And they don't have to get in the water. They need to see their dad choosing to get in the water. They need to see their mom choosing to get in the water. They don't even have to get in the water. The experience for them is not them getting in the water. The experience for them is watching an adult under their own fruition choosing to get in the water. That's the lesson. And, they say kids hear 20% of what we do, but 100%, of what we say, but they see 100% of what we do. I mean, that's compelling, man. Like those boys didn't need to get in the water last night. They needed to see you get in the water this morning. Right. So that's just so powerful, man. And having that ability to say, regardless of how I feel, I choose to do this hard thing. And I'm intentional about making that choice, right? Mm-hmm. So despite the fact that it's going to suck, I'm choosing to do it. But despite the fact, because it's hard, I'm choosing to do it, right? So Kennedy said, we go to the moon, not because it's incredibly, or not because we want to go to the moon. We want to go to the moon because it's incredibly difficult. Everybody says it's impossible to do it. And that's why we have to do it, right? So it's like codifying a whole nation, right? So we have to choose to do that hard thing, right? So feelings versus choices, everything. This is God's economy, right? So as you're talking about your kid, I can tell you, sitting in like a hot sauna, I was sitting in a hot sauna with my Emma the other night. It was, it's 175 to 185 degrees when we're in there, and it's 25 minutes. It's not 20 minutes, Pete. It's not 19 minutes, right? So when we get in and we're like, okay, 25 minutes, we set the timer. And this time I was just going off of my watch, and my Emma is like, with like 7 minutes left, she's like, hey, how much time do you have left? Because it was hot. Now it's just super uncomfortable. I didn't want to be in the sauna anymore. I was ready to get out of the sauna, right? So, and I could have at that moment said, you know what? How about we do 3 more minutes and we jump out? Like that'd have been wicked easy. It would have been almost invisible to everyone except for me and to Emma, because we said we were going to do 25 minutes. And she didn't know what time it was. She didn't know how many minutes we had left, but I did. And I wanted out of that song. And I got something else to do. Like I got to get on to the next thing. I'm like, you know what? 20 minutes is good. Good's the enemy of great. Like sitting in that moment right there and being like, no, we have 7 minutes left. Right. And, looking at your 18-year-old daughter sitting there like panting, being like, this sucks though. Are we about done? Right. I'm like, yeah, man, you can do anything for 3 more minutes. You can do anything for 1 more minute. Like teaching your kids that and having them see that that's a choice. You get open there's a door right there. You can step out at any point in time. That's the muscles that we're developing. I love the fact that the research now is able to identify and quantify what we've always known to be true, right? So understanding that there's literally that part of the brain, that anterior mid-cingulate cortex, that is actually a muscle that you can develop. And they show in like extreme athletes and people who have overcome hardships, and like they demonstrate literally a change in the brain. And it's not just a fleeting, stimulation of the brain. It's not just, you're not just stimulating that part of the brain and we're not able to just see it firing, but what you're seeing is the brain developing like a muscle. So there's a lasting benefit as you develop the muscle. Conversely, for those people who focus on how they're feeling and focus on just comfort and avoiding those difficult decisions, avoiding taking action in those difficult decisions, avoiding awkward conversations, conflict, picking that weight up at the gym, go for that run, go for that bike, get in the cold plunge, get in the sauna. sit down and have awkward conversations or hard or difficult conversations with their team, holding people accountable, doing that marketing initiative, running that team training, running that team meeting. When you choose to overcome the inertia or the negative feelings associated with doing hard things, you develop that part of the brain like a muscle. Whereas conversely, if you choose to not do that, that part of the brain atrophies and you literally get weaker.
So there's a speed of implementation component that I love about life is some things you can't force the function of, you can't speed it up, and waiting is your development of your muscle. Sometimes it's about waiting, it's about staying the course. Then there's this idea of the speed of implementation, which is that as soon as you have this revelation, you get this idea, something comes to you like this message, you can immediately put it into place. This is one of those. That it's a Monday thing. Like you could, this is as a leader, everybody who's listening to this is a leader. You've chosen to be a leader. That's why you're on this podcast. You would not be listening if you weren't. So I'm reminding you of that right now, that you, even listening to a podcast is a choice. You could have chosen to listen to nothing. You could have, I don't know, listen to something else. But you're choosing to listen to this because you want to grow. You're putting yourself, even in this environment, it's uncomfortable because you're like, I don't know what they're going to say, but maybe they're going to say something. Then I can't not unhear that anymore. And then I'm accountable to do something about that. So you put yourself in an environment like listening to this podcast. Exactly. So this is that for you. And I'm going to tell you something right now. It's all about speed of implementation. Like what is the thing that you can do today, this week, that immediately is going to put you in a place where you're going to develop that muscle, that the aMCC part of your brain, like where you can work that. I remember meeting with my counselor, my wife and I, with our marriage counselor, and she was saying it's all about grooves in the brain. She's like, you got to create new grooves. And she said a lot of times when people get caught in these ruts, it's because there's this groove and you're kind of cutting out, and then almost you end up back in the rut. It's a groove and you got to create a new groove. And this is about creating, just changing your brain. And Dr. Stephen, I was thinking about another interesting couple stories. Like one of the things I love about volume, whether it was volume in the clinic, let's say, for example, whether it was adjustments per month or week, or it was a number of new patients per month or week, or whatever the volume was, number of butts and seats at an event, like volume. What I love about volume is it challenges you to like, how could we get another 100 people in this room? How could we fit another 50 people in this shift? How could we get another 12 new patients on the books this week? Like when you ask yourself those questions, like how could we, do you know what I'm saying? Versus like, no, we can't. No, there's no more room in the schedule. I'll tell my team, like, time out. Wait, there's got to be a way. Like, could we double book? Is there a way to like optimize both rooms? Could we recruit this person? Could we, it's like we just always were looking at like, how could we do it though? Like, if it's possible, like, could I adjust more people? Could we get more people in today? Like, could we get that family in? I get it. It's a family of 5 and that, but could we see all 5 of them today? Can we make that happen? It was just right. Always like
what would have to be true.
But could we do it? Could we make it happen? Like, can we do this, guys? Like, I can't tell you how many times I think like, but is it possible? Like, could we make this happen? Like, how can we do it? What would have to be true? Like you said, and solving those things like today, like this week, like putting yourself in a situation, where it was, we force those functions. Like, and I know for me, for example, and sometimes it's the opposite side. Like no one showed up to the workshop. No one showed up. I remember these trainings that I used to do. They were freaking painful. You know what it was? Because we did group reported findings. And I'm going to be honest with you guys today, because not all, like Dr. Stephen, we talk about it. We speak from a place of pain and scar tissue. I hated getting goose egged. You may say, what do you mean goose egged? Meaning we have 3 people expected to come, 3 individuals bringing their spouse, coming for the report of findings. Goose egged. No one shows.
No showing.
No show. You talk about day 1 and day 2 stick rate. That's what I'm talking about. No one shows. I'll tell you, that is so frustrating, right? So demoralizing. So, you just want to kick something, you want to run, you want to just hit, you're just get mad, like, what is this, And those were the nights where I would go in and do the report in full, and mine was long, in full to an empty room. And I had some times where I would have somebody sit in the room with me, an intern, a staff member, but oftentimes nobody. And I'll tell you something right now, man. When you go home later that night and you still come home late, your family, my wife's like, how did tonight go? I was like, it sucked, or I would say probably usually it's great. It was great. No one showed, did the report, still got home late. Why didn't you come home earlier? All of that all the wrestling of all of that emotion and all that thought was just like, because I knew that most likely the reason why they didn't show was because it was of me. Because I always saw that people come to you, and I said, I might not have been ready to receive them. Maybe I wasn't ready to do what I needed to do tonight. Right. So I did it anyway. And that's just an example of like, what are ways practically, that was just a practical Tuesday situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, what could you do on Monday practically in your office? Like, what could we be doing that's going to enable us to grow? That was just an opportunity for me to say, I'm not going to cut corners. No, I'm going to feel the pain of this. I'm going to feel the weight, and this is never going to happen to me again. I ever want to have this ever happen again. It would even happen, Dr. Steve, when only one would show. Yeah. And you'd be like, are you really going to like do the whole report just for one person?
A group of one.
A group report just for one? And I'd be like, let's go. And it was almost awkward because I would speak as if I'm speaking to like an entire group.
Right.
We have 20 seats in the room. Like,
I'm not going to sit down, go knee to knee. No, we're not going to have a casual. I'm not going to water it down, shorten it up.
One of the most transformative experiences I ever had was in my first, like probably month in practice when I did that. And that person converted, but it was like, they converted, but it was like, it was an amazing thing. And she's like, I want my husband and my 2 kids to come in. I was like, that's really, it's like, that's awesome. But I didn't compromise. I didn't cut the corner. I like went all in, and it changed me. It was a shift. I was like, I learned my lesson. And I was like, I'll do that every time. I'll never cut corners, So
that average person has in America today has 47 people in their circle of influence.
Yeah.
That one person shows up, that's 47 people there. And if you need to get your head around something, that's who is like, you're speaking to the person. This is the messenger, and they're going to go back to camp. Right. So you're speaking to the messenger. Here's the message. Take this back to camp, to your 47. Right. So that'll change your perspective absolutely entirely. God wants us to make all of our big mistakes in a small room. Mm-hmm. And then he gives us a bigger room, right? So when you walk into your small room, because it's all relative, guys, all of us, this is a small room, right? We are privileged to be able to address chiropractic on this platform. This is a small room, right? Mm-hmm. So we had 700 people show up in Tampa for our event last week or a couple weeks ago, and that's a small room. It's all relative, right? So it's a small room. God wants you to make all of your big mistakes in a small room, and then he gives you a bigger room, right? So what we're talking about here today is developing the neurology that the next iteration, the next big room for you is going to require of you, right? So laying down those new tracks in your brain, that's called synaptogenesis. And that only comes from you choosing to do things differently, a different set of behaviors done over and over and over and over. In psychology, they say the things that fire together, wire together. Parts of your brain fire when you do certain things or think certain things. When you say certain things, your brain's firing. So things that you say or you think or that you do, as you're doing those things together, the parts of the brain, things that fire together, wire together. So you're literally training your brain. Guys, it's no different than training a golf swing. It's no different than training how to surf backside. It's no different than how do I do a clean and jerk, right? So it's no different than, man, that snatch is unbelievable. It's no different than learning the piano or the guitar or learning how to paint. This is exactly the thing. Remember learning how to do seated cervical chair, or man, I just can't palpate anything. I'm feeling this sweaty, hairy back on this dude sitting in the middle of a friggin' double wide trailer in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm like, I can't feel anything. I don't know what you guys are. You are the things that fire together, wire together. And you are literally training your brain like a muscle. And this whole concept of feelings versus choice is developing that passion, that perseverance for reaching your long-term goals. Angela Lee Duckworth did one of my favorite TED Talks of all time when she talks about grit. And grit means having the willpower and the resilience to do hard things over time. Repetitious, over and over and over again. And it always involves choice. Dr. Pete, there's a part of the brain that's waiting for you to train it. It's waiting for you right now, today, in this moment. Your anterior mid-cingulate cortex is calling for a workout. It's asking you, what is the next level for you? Put more weight on the bar. Go further on your run today. Hit another 100 buckets of ball. Do chops another 1,000 times. Pick up that guitar. Build that callus on your fingertips. So you're not thinking about your fingertips. You're thinking about the music that he's playing in your heart and in your head. You've got to develop this muscle. You've got to develop this part of the brain. You've got to choose to do hard things.
Please stick around for more business insights from this week's bonus interview with our remarkable success partner, dedicated to helping you more successfully help more people. Enjoy.
Hello, Remarkable CEOs. This is Coach Dr. Eric DiMartino from the Remarkable Practice. I'm excited to be in studio today with Dr. Naota Hashimoto from TrackStat. TrackStat is one of our Remarkable Success partners, and we just love and appreciate all our Remarkable Success partners because they help us further our mission and helping more docs help more people. So welcome to the podcast, Dr. Naota.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So please take a minute to introduce yourself and help our audience know a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so it's like started off as a practitioner. I'd say a pretty successful practice. Like we did 3.5 to 4 mil a year. We had several providers. We did a multidisciplinary. And one of the big pain points I had was we had a ton of systems, but none of the systems talked to each other. So we had like several spreadsheets, I had a stats platform, and then we had a texting platform, I had a marketing software, and then we had ChiroTouch, and nothing talked to each other. And we had one of the big things that we did is we did a lot of patient tracking, right? And we did a lot of stat tracking, hence TrackStat, because TrackStat was about tracking patients, tracking stats, and the missing piece to it is now we've added in automation and tracking team members. So a lot of EHRs, you're going to have. It was always really easy for me to get production on providers because providers have appointments, they have services, they have inventory, they have like billings, they have revenue, and there's always good reporting in every system, EMR, EHR on providers. But there was no, like, I always like wondered, what are these people doing? It seems like they're busy. And TrackStat makes it easy to track down those people. Because like if you're a front desk, like little things that we track are like, okay, if 100 appointments came in, or let's say they had 10 appointments that came in and 8 of them scheduled a future visit, you would have an 80% future scheduling, right? And that's a key metric of an admin person. Or if you take a look at canceled and missed appointments, what are the percentage of those that are getting rescheduled, or how many appointments is this logged in EHR user scheduling? Now, obviously that's not perfect because sometimes you'll have like one person logged in at the front desk and, you know, a team member comes in there and they'll schedule some appointments under that same logged in user. So like that stat's not perfect, but we tried to make it easier for managers and owners to identify C and D players hiding amongst A players. We also try to make it easy for C and D players to become A and B players. So like we pull the data out of the EHR and then we show them what to focus on. Because I think in like some of those frontline admin roles are more reactionary. Right now that you're a CEO in the practice versus when you're a treating doctor, it was different. When I was in there treating patients, just like when you're treating patients, you know, you're treating patients, you're putting out fires, and I'd have what I would call shovel days when I was busy with patients, and I'm just trying to finish my shift with my soap notes done and try to get like maybe 1 or 2 things done. And then I'd have my like buffer days where I would just focus on getting certain tasks or rocks done. But like a front desk, like a lot of times when they're doing like patient recalls, they have to wait for air quotes like downtime, because when you're at the front, patient comes in, you get interrupted, phone rings, you get interrupted, you get now with all these like texting and messaging services, you're getting pinged. And then when they have a little bit of free time, like I was worse at this, I'd walk up and I just, hey, you got to fax off these things. Do you check with this attorney on this thing? So they're constantly getting interrupted. So like TrackStat, what we do is we show them what to focus on. So it's like, if you take like recalls, like, yes, you could do auto text, which we do, that reach out to patients, but we'll take a look at all the patients that don't have a next visit and we'll put the ones at the top that are most likely to schedule, most valuable. And we know that based on their past scheduling and payment history, right? So if someone's paying $140 a visit, they should be recalled over your cousin that comes in and doesn't pay any money, right? So your cousin's not paying any money to the practice. You're not even billing their insurance because they don't have any, and you're just treating them a ton of times. And your cousin's a great person. Nothing against your cousin, Eric, but like, it just at the end of the day, you want to fill your practice with paying people. And yes, you're going to take care of your cousin, but like, why not get that person that pays 140, or why not get that person with an $800 credit back in? Because if they don't use up their credit, that's a financial liability. They could ask for a refund down the road, and it's not earned money until you actually earn it. So like, that's kind of like the premise of like where we started. And then from there, we just started adding in other things. So like at the beginning, it was like tracking stats. And then some of the people that signed up with us is like, well, it's like I'm paying for this appointment reminder system. So it's like, I don't want to pay for both. So we added that, and they want reviews, and they want online scheduling. Then they want a mobile app, and then they want other things. And I remember one of the frustrations I had was like how software doesn't talk to each other. And the problem in the chiropractic vertical is that we're not like a huge vertical. Like in some of the big medical or dental ones, they're attracting a lot of private equity groups, which there is in chiropractic. So like a lot of these integrations, these big private equity groups don't want to, it's not that they wouldn't do it, but it's just not a high focus target. So it's like we're doing integrations with things like Cash Practice and Fortis, right? Because one of the issues I remember with social media marketing is you'll get a number of these people that book appointments and no show, and it was always really frustrating. So we added a feature where it's like, okay, just charge them a $20 deposit, charge them anything. Like, it doesn't matter what they pay, but if they put their credit card down, the odds of them showing up is like dramatically higher. So like doing that, um, like every EHR has their native form software, but like if for some reason you use ChiroTouch in your practice and you didn't like the ChiroTouch forms, you could use like Intake Queue, or you could use Form Doctor. And then, like we're adding in like High Level. That's another integration we have, because like every single vendor in the TRP space that does marketing, they use High Level. And in chiropractic, I don't know if I've seen an agency with over 5 clients that doesn't use High Level. Like I don't know what their market share is in that space, but it's probably 95%. And then we're just trying to take a load off of the front desk with that integration. So with that thing, like the front office staff, they're so busy with office activity, turning them into a leads person is hard. So it's like we did an integration there where now, like if someone schedules an appointment, it updates them. If they no show, it updates them. If they check in or start care, it updates them. Referral sources and the High Level update over. And then we're doing some other stuff, and we're actually setting up quite a bit of framework right now for a bunch of AI stuff, because like there's a bunch of recall activity or scheduling activity that really can be done with AI, and AI voice is getting better and better. It's still pretty robotic, but like honestly, I think 2 years from now, like practices can probably even operate with like just a doc and a CA, and you're having this AI assistant for everything, and maybe like one human watching over a couple of offices. So
That's
yeah,
great.
a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, sounds like it. And, we're always talking with docs about how, businesses exist to solve problems. And sounds like TrackStat, from what you're saying, is you really solve the problem of integration. We always tell our docs we want to leverage ourselves, right? As CEOs, you can't do everything, right? But we can build a team that collectively can do everything. And so we always want to leverage either people, we want to leverage systems, we want to leverage technology. So a lot of docs now will have, they'll have a stat tracking program. They'll have their EHR. They'll have their CRM system like Go High Level. They'll have their billing software. They'll have all these different things, but like you said, they don't talk to each other. So it's like you got to go into all these different systems. So I love how you guys have found a way to kind of integrate all that so things can talk. It makes it so much easier and so much simpler. On top of that, you guys give the data, and data is huge. I'm a big data guy because I work with a lot of CEOs. When I first started working with them, they've built great practices, but they don't have great businesses, right? They just build great practices just because their passion for chiropractic, their charisma, their personality, but they have no idea what they're actually doing in their business. They don't really know what their conversion rates are, retention rates. And I love the TrackStat can literally measure all of that, right? Because you can have systems in place, but if you're not measuring each aspect of the patient journey, you have no idea what you're doing well and what to improve on. And so I love how TrackStat, like you said, you can kind of track every step, like the future scheduled visits, right? You can track that because we can kind of track docs to a little extent. Hey, we got so many new patients, so many conversions. This is our retention rates, but it's been hard to really track our CAs and what they're doing, right? We can put a great system in place, and TRP, we have amazing systems. We have systems from day 0 to day 3,000 of the patient journey, but how do you measure how each team member is doing each step of that journey? And it sounds like TrackStat is able to do that now. Am I correct?
Yeah, and yeah, it's like imagine like playing any kind of a sports game without a scoreboard, right? Like it'd be the most boring game to watch and it'd be like hard to play. Or it's just like, and then some of the people they're doing the reporting, but like they're like hand counting some stuff and it's just slow. Like I just tell people, like imagine if you were driving and you didn't have a speedometer on there, but you had a way to track your measurement and you had a time tracker and you're like, okay, I've driven this far, this much distance in this much time. I think I'm going this fast. And at that point, like you already got a speeding ticket, right? Like it's getting them in real time is important, especially like your leading indicators, right? Like your future scheduling rate and stuff like that. You'll have your lagging indicators like your collections, but like your leading indicators, you want to get those in real time or at least like daily at the end of the day at the very least. And yeah, like a lot of people, they waste time. Like I see some people, they say, well, it's automated because Tiffany's doing it and I'm paying Tiffany's salary. But the thing is, if Tiffany wasn't wasting her time doing these things, she might be able to get some other things done. And what Tiffany should be doing is if one of your patients fell down and broke their hip, sending her a personalized get well soon card and mailing it. Like that stuff's huge. Sending a personalized video to a patient, calling someone like like if they were sick and getting them to come in and telling them, hey, you should get adjusted and stuff like that, and explaining to them why chiropractic is beneficial to someone that's feeling sick. And like that's the kind of stuff that you can't really automate with like this little auto text. Yes, you can auto text it, but like you can't create that connection through automation.
That's a human thing. That's one thing AI will never replace, right? That
Yeah,
human connection.
human to human. And it's just if you free up your people, like because like we just try to automate all these like low value repetitive tasks so like your team could focus on human to human tasks.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's great. So, considering what's coming next, as you look ahead and assess the needs for our profession, how are you helping doctors be prepared to succeed in the future?
Trying to make them more profitable because like if you're a more profitable practice then you could hire better people. If you can take your A players and get more stuff done with automation, maybe you don't have to hire as many people, and maybe that A player you could give them the extra raise to keep them because like the cost of labor is going up, the cost of great labor is going up, and in healthcare you have hospitals like poaching really great employees all the time. Like I've lost employees to them because they have like 401k, they have healthcare, they have all this stuff. And like the only way to compete against that is offering more. And to offer more, you have to run a more profitable business, right? So that is selling more often, right? Increasing your visits, selling for more, increasing what you collect per visit, and then reducing your operating expenses. And part of that comes through automating these low value tasks. And that part in the middle is going to be your profitability. And if you're more profitable, then you could get better people, you could buy new equipment, you could pay for better marketing, you could pay for consultants. Like it just everything, like all the good things happen when you have a profitable practice, right? Like just little things, like someone needs a new keyboard and mouse, like all these like little things. Their computer is too slow buying it. And then, like I just gave our office manager no questions on, and it wasn't much. It was like I think it was like 150, 200 bucks. No questions asked. You could just spend it on anything, whether it's a mouse, a keyboard, a monitor, things like that. And this is like pre-COVID, so things cost less, right? So if I was practicing today, that number would probably be like 300 at least or 350. But like it's just like she did one-on-ones with all the people, and she was always looking for friction points, any barriers, and it's like, what can I do to make your life easier? Right. And
An A player, man. They are
yeah,
worth their weight in gold. Yeah.
yep.
So it's worth more to to pay those people, and because you won't be able to attract them if, like you said, if you're not competitive in the marketplace. So awesome. Well, thank you for your time today, Dr. Naota. I appreciate all you do for TRP. So what's the next best way for the listeners to learn more, to get in contact with you guys, or to take the next step?
I'd say like do a free trial. So they could go to trackstat.org, trackstat.org. They could just visit the site. They could click watch demo. There's a little video in there. And then what they really should do is they should schedule a demo, which is going to be on that thank you page. They could take a look at it. And if they think it's going to solve their problem, which usually it does, they do a free trial. A lot of people think that their ship is like airtight and they got no leaks in their ship. And most of the time, actually, every single time, we'll just point out all these little deficiencies in there. And like my favorite thing is, if they're trying to do retention, I could do patient drop-off analysis and we could calculate that in about 3 seconds. And if you've ever done that by hand, which I've done, it's a painful thing to calculate. And then from there, you just work backwards and, like fix the leaks in the bucket. So, but yeah, free trial is the best way to start.
Awesome. Appreciate that. And we'll put the link to that in the show notes below for all of our listeners if they want to take advantage of that and check it out. So thank you so much, Dr. Naota, for taking time today. Thank you for being a TRP Success Partner. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right. So Remarkable CEOs, remember tuning each week to the Remarkable CEO podcast. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and we will see you guys next week.
Hey Remarkables, Dr. Stephen Franson here. Are you ready to take your practice systems to the next level? Grow your practice, increase your profits. Would you like to have your team immersed in a high-energy, inspiring environment where they're trained and skilled up in the complete TRP system? I've got great news. It's that time of year again. It's time for the Remarkable Conversion and Retention Immersion. It only happens one time a year in the US and once in Australia. June 6th and 7th in Orlando, and June 27th and 28th in Sydney, Australia. In this comprehensive training on the complete Remarkable Practice Building System, we cover everything. Day 1, 2, 3, 4, week 1, 2, 3, 4, month 1, 2, 3, 4, year 1, 2, 3, 4, and beyond. Patient conversion and retention. We cover the entire system. What would it feel like to see more of your new patients eagerly starting care and then happily following your recommendations for care? They stay under care because they want chiropractic care. At this powerful and inspiring 2-day event, you and your team will discover exactly what is working today in the conversion process. New patients starting care and staying under care. Building your practice volume and your revenue. Learn the most cutting-edge communications that drive more conversions, unbelievable retention, and incredible referral. This is the best bang for your buck in training all year. Register your team at theremarkablepractice.com or find the link in the show notes below. Join us for a jam-packed 2 full days of intensive training for chiropractic teams that want to grow their practice and increase their profit. June 6th and 7th in Orlando, Florida, and June 27th and 28th in beautiful Sydney, Australia.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.